Holding on to a chapter or a number of chapters for fear of submitting your dissertation to your chair? Are you afraid that your chair is going to tear up your writing to the point that you don't want to continue on in the process? And you're just trying to find a way to protect yourself from submitting because you're just scared of the feedback that you're going to get? One thing I can tell you for sure is that if you don't submit, you're not going to finish. However, I understand how anxiety provoking submitting your work for feedback is. And that's why on today's episode of From ABD to PhD show, we're going to focus on how to overcome anxiety when submitting your work for feedback. I want to say thank you so much for watching this episode of From ABD to PhD show. My name is Dr. Ramon Goings, and I'm founder of Done Dissertation, where our goal is to help demystify the dissertation process so that doctoral students can write and defend their dissertation in 1 year or less. Today's episode of From ABD to PhD show is sponsored by the Done Dissertation Velocity Coaching Program. It is a unique coaching experience with the goal to help you write and defend your dissertation quickly. So if you're someone who's looking to get this thing done, what I want you to do, and you need that support along the way from coaches who are dedicated to helping you get to the finish line, what I want you to do is go to www.velocitydissertation to learn more, or you can scan the QR code that is here on your screen in order to learn more about our program and to complete a complimentary consultation application so we can learn more about how we can help you to the finish line. And with that said, let's get into today's video on how to overcome anxiety when submitting your work for feedback. Look, I know the writing process can just be, it could be anxiety provoking, scary, all those things. But I'm going to give you some insight because I had to overcome this. I've seen hundreds of doctoral students that have come through Velocity overcome this. And so I want to give you some of those insights that will help you get to where you need to with your dissertation. And so what I want you to realize first is that perfection does not exist. And again, I will say that to you again. Remember that perfection does not exist. Realize that as you're going through the dissertation, you will never be perfect in this thing. Here's why. The way you're being trained right now and the way your faculty are trained, they're always going to find something to critique. I don't care what it is. You can feel like, oh, I did this thing and I worked on this for 8 hours. I remember a client said that, just like, Dr. Goins, I'm frustrated because I worked for 8-10 hours on this document and they still had stuff to say. And I just said, you know what? That's going to be always part of the process. So just get used to it. And because of that, what I started to realize in my own journey as a doctoral student is that I couldn't aim for perfection because it was just a goal that was unattainable. And what I see a lot of doctoral students do is trying to strive, right? You're reaching, you're clawing for perfection. And it's like one of those bars that continues to move up. And as high as you go, you never can get over the bar because it doesn't exist. And what I want you to recognize is that your good is probably good enough, honestly. And those at times when you start to think about, oh my God, it's not perfect. I don't know what my chair is going to do. Outside of it just being a complete mess, where it's just like incoherent in terms of the writing is, it's probably good to send your chair at least to get some initial feedback. But you have to recognize and realize that writing perfection does not exist. Once you let go of that, you will get a sense of relief that happens as a writer because now you can just focus on, hey, I'm going to write and it's going to be good enough and I'm going to get this thing done. But if you're going to be sitting there stuck, continuously thinking about being perfect, the loop that it will cause you is this. You'll want it to be perfect. You'll keep striving. That bar will keep going higher, higher, and higher. And then what you recognize and realize is that, oh, that I can never reach that. And because you can never reach it, you're like, well, why am I doing this anyway? Because they're still going to have something to say. So then you procrastinate. And then what should have been a 1-day turnaround turns into a 1-month turnaround, which sometimes turns into a 10-year turnaround. I know some of y'all might be watching, might have been in your program 10 years. I get it. It's part of what happens in this journey. But what distinguishes people from those who finish versus those who don't are the ones who realize that perfection doesn't exist. They show back up for that dissertation and they put one step forward and get the thing done one step at a time. That's going to be the distinguishing factor for you as you're working through this. But it's only you that can make that determination. But it's going to start here first with realizing that writing perfection doesn't exist. And so with that, the second aspect when we're thinking about how to, overcome writing anxiety when submitting your work for feedback is that you have to then recognize and master what I call the 80-20 rule. And so in my book, 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation, I talk about in depth about this idea of the 80-20 rule. And I'm sorry, I'm looking for my book to show you all. But in one of the chapters, I talk about this 80-20 rule. And what I mean by that is that a lot of you all are trying to get your work perfect. But what I want you to start to do, and what I want you to master, is that you're going to get your work to 80%. And then you're going to submit that thing off your plate. It's going to show up to your professor. And at that point, once it shows up to them, they're going to help push it the other 20% needed in order to finish. So just remember that your job is to get it to 80% satisfactory, allow your chair and committee to push you to the 20%. Because if you keep holding on to trying to get it to 100%, it will take you so long. And you right now, I bet you, if you're someone who's holding a chapter, I have a challenge for you. And you have to send me a comment somewhere on social media, shoot me a DM, or even better, join our text community at hashtag elevate to 301-701-2466. Again, it's 301-701-2466. Shoot us a text message. Let us know how this goes. But my challenge for you right now is to go ahead and that chapter that you've been sitting on, submit it today, tonight, or whenever you're watching this. Go ahead and hit the pause button if you need to, or while you got me up and I'm still talking through, I want you to pull your email up, get that chair's email, address in there, and submit that document. I challenge you to do that because I know someone here is going to do it and it's going to get you one step closer to finishing. And all I need, we get thousands of people who watch this show. I just need one person to do it, and I'm hoping that it's you, is the person that does it, because I want to see you win. I want to see you get through this process, and there's no need to let our fear of our work get in the way of finishing. So please, I want somebody to accept the challenge. I know somebody's going to accept this thing, but you got to master the 80-20 rule. I promise you, getting to 100% is just not the goal, and it takes too much time and effort. So why not get the least, barrier of entry? Is like, let me get it pretty good, and then let me submit. And we say this to our clients all the time, is that a lot of folks have and are so much overachievers, because that's the type of clients that we attract, are those who are really good at what they do and want it to be perfect. And because of that, when they implement this rule, they recognize that their process goes even faster because they have implemented this. Now, for those of y'all who are watching, the next aspect of this that I want you to consider is that you're going to have a method to process the feedback that you will receive. Because this is an important part. You got to have a method to process the feedback. Because a lot of you all are scared of feedback because you don't know what to do with it. And I literally had this happen recently. I had it happen to myself and to a client. So I'm going to give you my story because recently I wrote a journal article and we got the reviews back from the folks who looked at the article. And if you know how that process goes, you write the paper, you submit it to the journal. The journal has 2 to 3 experts or 5 experts in your field. Read your paper, provide comments, and you get them back, and you have to make those changes and suggestions. When I first got the feedback from the editor, from the reviewers, I was like, oh my God, it's just so much feedback to deal with. I didn't want to deal with it. And I put it off to the side for about a couple of weeks, just because I had other things going on that were competing with my time. And I was like, I'll come back to that journal article in a little bit. I know some of you are approaching your dissertations like that. You look at the feedback and it's so much red that you're like, I can't even pay attention and focus on all this. I got to close that document. It happens all the time. We had somebody who was a prospective client reach out to us, and they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much feedback. It was too much red, and I closed it. And then I told them, oh, I actually looked through all the feedback, and a lot of it was like structural things, move things around and add references and a couple other small things, nothing major. This is why you got to have a method in order to deal with the review process in terms of getting feedback from your chair and committee. And so I want to give you an acronym to remember. It is REAP, REAP. So the REAP approach to improving your academic writing is a process that, one, I want you to consider as you're engaging in the writing process, because it's really important. So first, and the reason why I tell you this part about writing first, and then we're going to get into how to manage the feedback, is because I think they go hand in hand. But first things first is that part of our REAP approach is to actually make sure that you are reading the literature. That is something that we cannot do for you. So the foundation of REAP is to read, because that is going to be the thing that gives you confidence in your writing, because you feel like you are well read and understand the literature. Those are interrelated. And here's a little a hack that I'll let you all inside scoop on in terms of how faculty view your work. If we're looking through your work and we see about 3 or 4 paragraphs and you're just citing the same 2 authors, that's a red flag instantly to us as a faculty that says, oh, this student might not have read enough. And it shows up in the writing. You don't write with confidence. And so I know how that goes, and we see it as faculty. So remember, the foundation is to read. The second piece of REAP is the E, is to exercise your writing muscle every day. You have to get in the habit of exercising your writing muscle, especially if you feel like you're not a strong writer yet, because the stronger you get at your writing, the less scared you'll be about the feedback that you get. That's going to be important. So exercise your writing muscle. We've had other episodes recently on writer's block and some of those things that allow you to overcome, that will allow you to then to sit down and exercise that writing muscle every day. Then the A is to accept and then embrace feedback from your colleagues and professors. Feedback is I think, the best gift a good faculty member can give to you as a doctoral student. And having good feedback is valuable. It pushes you forward. And trust me, having feedback gets you one step closer to finishing. And then lastly, as a writer, you might want to practice what I say practice a playground friendly writing approach. And so when we think about that, I found that the simpler we got with the writing, the easier it became. And so when you have that writing foundation, it builds your confidence. But then from there, once you implement the REAP approach, what you're going to do is have a system for receiving the feedback. And so I want to give you a step-by-step process to think through what do you do when you get feedback. So the first step is you're going to read all of the feedback in its entirety. Step one. Step two, you are going to get mad. Yes, you are going to get mad. Say all the things. That professor don't know what they're talking about. They a whole fool. Whatever it is you need to say about that person, because trust me, I did the same thing. Say all those things. Get mad. Then what you're going to do is take a 24-hour break from working on the writing. 24 hours. Not 24 days, not 24 months. 24 hours. You're going to take a break because it's going to help you distance yourself from the feedback. You're still going to be thinking about it, but it's going to distance you from actually looking at it. Then the next day you show up, I want you to reread the feedback. But now what we're going to do is take all the feedback and we're going to organize it by section in an Excel sheet or another document, because I want you to start understanding, where are you getting feedback on? What type of feedback are you getting? Is there some threads that are common throughout your document? Let's say, for instance, one of the ones I usually see for my students when they write is that in APA format, that if you're referring back to the literature, you'll use past tense. So maybe in my case, it might be like going 2020 explored the experiences of blank, 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 right? And so a lot of times I see that in the writing, but I'll just make that comment and I'll usually tell the student, like, hey, I see the same thing throughout the document. So a lot of times if you fix the comment in one spot, you can fix it throughout the document. You satisfy that chair's suggestion. So it's figuring out, where are you, struggling and dealing with, with the writing, because that's where you get the most feedback and suggestions. This becomes even more important when you have more than one person giving you feedback, because now you can make sense of everybody's feedback. And what you can do is that when you get the feedback, you copy it verbatim, and then you also assign what section in the document is this on, or page number, whatever works easiest for you. Then you'll start to notice, like, oh man, my chair and two committee members said, I didn't explain the rationale as to why my theoretical framework is not aligned to my research questions. I need to go back and fix it. And then the trick here is, once you fix it once, you fix it for everyone, your chair and the two committee members. This is why knowing where things are is important. Then what you're going to do is, once you address the particular feedback from whoever it is, you're going to, in another column or somewhere else in that document, you're going to write what you did in your reply back. Like, oh, thanks for the suggestion. You suggested I work on my alignment. Here's what I did. On page 10, you will see that I provided a stronger rationale as to why this particular framework, and I amended my research questions to better align to the framework on page such and such. Last step, and this is going to be the pro tip here. What you're going to do is then take that, what you maybe put in a document Excel sheet, you're going to actually write a letter back to your chair with the attachment of your actual dissertation accompanying it. So you're going to have what everybody suggested and what you did in terms of reply under each item. And then what this will allow you to do and allow your chair to do is actually review it very quickly. And then they can see, like, oh man, they paid attention to this. Because this is what we do as faculty members when we're writing for peer review publication. We have to write these letters back to the editor and saying how we address all the reviewers' comments. I think this is a great practice to get into now, especially if you want to write for publication. This same process I'm telling you is the same process I implement to this day and teach wholeheartedly in order to navigate not only the dissertation process, but also writing for peer review or any type of publication where you're going to get some form of feedback. So make sure that you apply this. And again, it's going to take you having a method to process the feedback that you're going to receive. Remember, you got to have a method at this thing. Now, real quick, before we get into the next one, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell, because we found that over 90% of people who watch these videos are not subscribers. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn or Facebook or somewhere else, make sure you hit the follow button so that we can keep in contact. Now, the next component of this, when we're thinking about how to overcome anxiety when submitting your work for feedback, is that what you're going to do next is that you're going to realize that if you don't submit, you won't finish. I'm going to say that again for you all. If you don't submit, you will not finish. Come to that realization. I need for you to come to that realization today after watching this short clip. If you do not submit, you are not going to finish. Because of that, if you're not going to be able to finish, you better start getting comfortable with the feedback, because I promise you, you have to do it. And I want you to start thinking about not will I get feedback or I'm afraid of the feedback. I want you to start thinking about the faster I get feedback is the faster I finish. If you come at it with that frame of mind, it will make feedback a lot more manageable for you. This is what I have to do when I'm writing for publication. It gets to a point where, like, all right, this piece is pretty good. I got to get this off my docket. I'm going to send this to the journal for review, and I got to submit this thing. Of course, I'll get some reviewer feedback. They may even reject it. Who knows? But I got to get it off my plate. And I came to the realization that if I don't submit, I'm not going to get it published. So I want you to take heed of this, is that if you do not submit, you will not finish. It's just the reality of it. And I want you to be mindful of these things as you are, working through your dissertation process. And so with that said, I want you to be mindful of, like, again, thinking through having a method to process the feedback, thinking about that, if you realize that if you don't submit, you're not going to finish. Recognizing that you have to also master the 80-20 rule, that you're going to get it 80% good and then allow the committee to push you the other 20%. And then also recognize and remember that you are going to recognize, and you have realized now, that perfection with your writing does not exist. I promise you, once you taken these strategies in and apply them, especially that one on writing, and then applying in terms of feedback, rewatch that part, because it's going to be really important. It's something that you can implement. It's a tactical strategy, so something that you can do. So I'm literally giving you the whole strategy, so please go implement. But you have to apply these strategies. So it's one thing to learn them, it's the second thing to apply them. And in our velocity coaching program, we love working with folks who apply the strategies. That's how we help folks finish quicker. And if you're someone who wants to be in an environment where you get the strategies that are specific to your dissertation, then I want you to apply to work with us and learn more about our program. And so if you're interested in learning more, you can go to www.velocitydissertation.com, or you can scan the QR code that is here on your screen. Again, I want to see folks out here winning. We're coming up towards the end of the semester, and there is no reason why you can't finish this dissertation quickly. And you're probably seeing friends in college getting ready for defenses, and like, you jealous, like, shoot, I'm trying to defend. If that's you and you haven't been able to do it on your own and you need that support, reach out to us, get the support. Like, don't go at this thing alone, because it makes no sense in order to spin your wheels around and around when you can get some support in order to get done. Because again, sometimes you might have to do different things to get a different result. And that's what we help our clients do in the Velocity Coaching Program. But with that said, I want to say thank you so much for watching this episode from ABD to PhD Show. Again, please hit the like and subscribe button if you're on YouTube, or the notification bell as well. If you're watching this on LinkedIn or Facebook, make sure you follow us, because again, most of our folks who watch our episodes are actually not followers and don't know when new episodes are coming out. So if that is you, make sure that you reach out. And if you're watching this and you happen to be someone who is trying to think through and need some support around the writing, you're like, shoot, I need help also with the writing. We have a training for you called Elevate Your Academic Writing. It's completely complimentary. If you want access to that, you can scan the QR code that is here on your screen, or you can go to www.thedonedissertation.com/elevate. And I'll put that on the screen as well. www.thedonedissertation.com/elevate. And if you happen to be watching this on the replay, just drop this link in the comments so that somebody coming behind you can get access to the link and know how to get access to this complimentary training. So excuse me. With that said, I want to say thank you so much for watching this episode from ABD to PhD Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ramon Goings, and until next time, I wish you all a done dissertation. Take care.